Check, check.
This special meeting of the Judson Board of Trustees is hereby called to order at 4:05 p.m. I am very pleased you have taken the time to join us this evening. In compliance with State Government Code on Open Meetings, tonight's agenda has been appropriately posted. These proceedings are being video and audio recorded and will become part of Judson's permanent legal record. In order for the tape adequately reflects these proceedings, please silence your mobile devices and refrain from talking while others are speaking. Once again, I extend to each of you a sincere welcome from the entire school board. Thank you for your interest in Judson ISD. We have established a quorum, and I will call roll. All right, you can go ahead and mark your attendance. Okay, we have 6 members present, and Ms. Jones is in traffic and will be here momentarily. Any public comment, Ms. Holmes? No, all right, no public comment. Then we will move right on to our main agenda item for tonight. We have Dr. Gibson with us, who will be leading us through some strategic planning. A lot of this is, we've got a whole new team here, right? Our number of new members of a team, 3 new board members. So plan is to go back through some of that strategic, tactical that we have learned from you over the last 18 months. And then move through to the performance management system, because we've got a balanced scorecard, now what? And how are we going to use that document we created in order to move our way through the average school year. So I will turn it over to you, Dr. Gibson.
Very good. And I may make sure, they usually want me to mic check. Are we good? Louder? Let me hold it right here. I've got it on. Test, test, test.
And just for the record, Ms. Jones has arrived. It's 4:07. Thank you.
And Ms. Jones, I did not get to meet you ahead of time, so I'm not going to do a lot of introductions and all that. I'm Greg from Graham, and I used to be a superintendent, and I used to be on several boards, and now I just drive around the state and do this kind of stuff. So if everybody's good with that, we're just going to jump in and not do a lot of formalities. So I think I looked back at my Judson file, and I think we started at least 24 to 36 months ago, and so I would just say congratulations. We are now at the end of the beginning. And so I have no other way to, it's the end of the beginning, because you arguably cannot implement or execute a performance management system if you don't have clear objectives and clear outcomes that you're managing towards. So let me, and just in way of a quick introduction, and I want to draw your attention. President Ryan, are you good with me not messing around and let's just get going? Because I think, okay, is everybody good with that? All right. I'll get to know y'all later. Okay, all right. There's 2 documents that are out on the table that I want to use, the key traits of high quality work in performance, and it's misspelled. These were beta documents that I had sent, and somehow somebody cleaned them up. They didn't check everything, but these literally are not in the Moat Casey library, just so you know. So I went ahead and brought them. They will be rolled out at SLI Is that this week and next week? Okay, this stuff hits the market later this week with an A in performance. That is not the word to misspell on this page, by the way. Of any word on the page, performance is not. But I thought I would just bring them because this is really cool stuff, and it really lines up with where we're going with performance management. And then you have a working agenda that maybe will just help us keep progressing. And I'm going to knock out number 1 in the next 5 minutes while we're talking. And just if you're playing along on working agenda bingo, 2 and 3 are actually in a PowerPoint that we'll flip over to here in a little bit. It's the same concepts that you see on the page, but we're going to run through them in a slide deck in just a moment. But just in way of introduction, and this is number 1, we're this work that you are embarking on from this point forward, moving from strategic planning to performance management, hits these 4 points that I want to talk about for just a second. So one of the primary things, and a lot of this was designed from Harvard Business School, so it's kind of where Harvard Business School meets Kaplan and Norton, meets Baldrige, meets a lot of military constructs. Like this is where this stuff all comes from. But one of the 1A there, what all organizations that aspire to be high performing need to do is reduce variability. Like we can say we want this goal way out here, but any goal towards any work towards an aspiring goal, step 1 for everybody is reducing variability. So in other words, we have processes, we have a calendar, a master calendar, we have systems in place. And for me as a superintendent in 3 different districts, especially not the last one I was in, but the next to last one I was in, the boundaries have been set, and you all probably know exactly, you live this, but the boundaries have been set for years and years and years. We had to make sure that no matter where each elementary child lived, because it is what it is, that there was a reduction of variability between all of the different campuses. And the magic sauce in that is creating that reduction in variability, but at the same time not completely killing autonomy. Right, like you're trying to strike the balance between that. So Marzano and Waters called that defined autonomy. And so we do believe strongly at Moat Casey that we can reduce variability and maintain autonomy. We'll talk more about that tonight. So then the ultimate goal is to create a high reliability organization, and that's a term from McCrell, MCREL. I can't even remember what that stands for, but it stands for something that sounds really important. But McCrell really started, do you remember what? Research and education and leadership or something. There we go, McCrell, we figured it out. But they really leaned into this defined autonomy concept and then came up with this high reliability organization. And when I, it's not only checklist and calendars and all of that, but if it feels like the target's constantly moving, then you just have no chance at performance. So we have to get clear on the outcomes first of all. And I'll give you an example of the importance of checklists. When I left Corpus 2 weeks ago, unfortunately, I was flying out on the last flight out about 7 p.m. trying to get back to DFW, and somebody had a heart failure back behind me, and so here goes the AED, and and the air conditioner's barely working, and it's Corpus and it's hot and people are getting mad. And fortunately the gentleman the AED worked. I don't know exactly, I'm a doctor, not that kind, but anyway, it worked. And so they got him stabilized, and they got him on the gurney or the board, and they got him off the plane. And everybody's curious about his status, but they're also looking at their watch, so as soon as the patient is off, then curiosity turns to madness, because everybody wants to get to Dallas, and we're going to be an hour late. And the pilot says, I know we had just pulled back 50 yards from the terminal, but we've got to go back to the terminal and run our checklist. Okay. whoa, like the temperature went up in the plane, right? Like, why are we? So they go back and we're sitting there. So they ran the checklist again, and the pilot said, okay, we're good to go with one exception. Our AED is not here. It's on the gurney going to the ambulance in front of, and we can't take off without an AED. So we're trying to find an AED. Now, that's high reliability in the sense that if another event had occurred during that flight, everybody's mad except the one that might have had another event like in the air and there's no AED. So that, I think about just the fact that, even with people mad and upset, and the pilot actually did a good job. Like, he was doing it over the PA, he could hear and all that. And then he stepped out and he just said, look, we're just, if someone else has a heart attack, we need to have an AED. Like, he got face to face with everybody, and it really helped. Okay, but that's high reliability, and that's to me, that's a really good example of even sometimes when the pressure is on to not run the checklist, you still run the checklist, even when the pressure's on. Then you guys have done a fantastic job. The third point on here, C, is that this work aligns to our mission, increase academic growth, positive student experience and well-being, and CCMR. See, this kind of this lines up with the mission. I would argue that 1.1 and 1.3 directly line up to the mission. We think 1.2 is a really important component of 1.1 and 1.2. That's why it's on the board. Using the performance management structure is that this is always right in front of us, but we got to check in with the staff. We got to constantly check in with the community. We got to constantly check in on the financials. So it's not necessarily the balance. It could be, a case could be made that it's the balance between 3 and 4, or it's the balance between 2 and 3, or it's the balance between 2 and 4, which is happening right now with trying to figure out the teacher pay raise. It's the balance between 2 and 4. It's almost like we're always trying to deliver 1, but we got to check in on 2, but we got to check in on 3, but we got to check in on 4. So the performance management system is so that we're not only, like, all our attention is right here and we're forgetting staff or we're forgetting the community. So one arguably is the most important priority because it's linked directly to our mission, but we need a system to make sure that we're constantly checking in on the other priorities. And then, I know that y'all probably heard all this, but House Bill 4, the new accountability system died a painful death last Saturday night. I was there in the room, and someone texted, "Is it dead?" And I was like, "Yeah, cremated, ashes over the Gulf. Like it is dead." Although I felt better. We had Chairman Buckley at a meeting this last Friday, and he said, "We just ran out of clock. We got some good concepts agreed upon." And it's my goal 2 years from, actually he wants to get an interim charge and start where it left off on Saturday night, and like let's just, so that felt a little bit good. But for right now, today, this moment, the lawsuits are settled. There is no HB4 died. So the rules are the rule. The rules as we knew them are the rules. Is that fair enough? Like, okay, and like the only good thing about HB4 failing is at least we know how to measure some of this for the next 18 months, and then we'll pay attention to it moving forward. And in some ways that kind of is good news because we were trying to build a system around it. And so we needed that to stabilize so that we could build a system around the performance metrics. But having said that, and I love your 1.2, the state assessment is a measure, not the measure, right? We're going to look at it. It's very important, but it's not the measure for the district. We're going to pay attention to it, but it's not the measure. All right, is that fair enough? That's why we are here. We're trying to build a performance management system that checks all the boxes on all of these things. Then moving to the embargo thing that I snuck a copy for you guys on AAA. We call it AAA EET. So that's our nickname for this document. So there's two things here, and I'll explain why they're there. But the AAA EET is what we believe are the key traits of high quality work. Now that just work. So that might be that I'm a consultant and Dr. Saunders is a client, and then I'm going to assume as a customer of me that she desires accessibility to me as a consultant. She desires accuracy. When she asks for something, I get something back that's accurate. She might give up on the third one. If she had to go, I just know her, between accuracy and attitude, she might say, forget the attitude, just make it correct. But
that is accurate.
Okay, I know it's accurate. I know you. So, but we believe that we shouldn't have to give up on a friendly voice, a connection, a positive experience in order to be accurate. By the way, my whole work career, it felt like the balance between accuracy and attitude. They were really, really good at what they did, but no one liked them, or everyone really, really, really liked them, and they were no good at what they did. So we were constantly trying to, we need to lean into both of those. Then efficiency, we want to produce the desired result with little or no waste. And then effectiveness, we believe that efficiency should rarely appear without effectiveness somewhere near it, because we can engineer efficiency to the point that we lose effectiveness. Does that make sense? Like, we can always do something cheaper. That's why, like in bid contracts, we can go with best value and not only low bid, right? Because we're, sometimes that's right. And that's like, we got to figure out, like, where's the best value in this? Someone will always do something cheaper. Okay, we get that, but can they deliver it? That's the question. And then timeliness is a lot like some of the other things on here, but we're isolating we said we would get the thing I said I'd get it to you Tuesday, and I got it to you Monday afternoon, or 6 a.m. Tuesday morning, right? Like, it comes early, or it comes, okay. So the concept here that we've been working on this last year is that when the board and the tactical team and new trustees, I'm going to do a PowerPoint here in a little bit. Strategic equals board, tactical equals administrative. So we're like, just kind of get you ready to flex your muscles on that. And we have the strategic and the tactical team sitting together right now. I don't know if we're going to call it the stratical team, or if we're just going to, what we're going to call it, but I think about Will Ferrell, but we don't need to call it the strategery team. We do, like, that's probably not good, but whatever we wind, tactory team, whatever. But what these two team combines, and I kind of like the idea of keeping it two teams combined, because it's two very distinct roles that we're bringing off the dais and off of the formal things kind of down to the floor. But we're saying not only is there a space for these two roles to interact, you should performance management around the relationship between these two teams. And see, we're going to talk here a little bit about lots of opportunities for these two teams that are here right now to work together. So the big concept that we're rolling out at SLI is work is work. So when the strategic team and the tactical team are working together, what is still desired is accessibility, accuracy, attitude, effectiveness, efficiency, and timeliness. Do you see, like, so we're taking something that sometimes is between consultant and client, but as a trustee, Ms. Knoyer needs from Dr. Saunders these things. And then now some of it, most of it goes that way, but it goes the other way also, right? The tactical team needs certain things from the board team. And so what we're rolling out is this concept of self-assessing where we are, and wherever you are, that's where you are. And that's the relationship between the tactical and the strategic team. And we can sit here all day long and say, we're good, we like each other. Well, that's attitude, maybe. That's not accuracy, that's not timeliness, that's right. We've got to get a little, and every time I hear we're good, what I hear as a consultant is, if we say we're good, will you leave? Like, and not make us take a self-assessment so that we can quantify our, okay, the board good governance handbook is here. We'll reference it some tonight. I see some norms, Dr. Fields, like them. Some districts, as they move more intentionally into performance management, they may take meeting norms and get a little more granular, like these last two columns on this. So if we agree that we want to have accessibility to each other, like we are capable of being reached, how does the board support and strengthen that trait? And then how does the admin team strengthen that trait? See, like it's two roles, so there's maybe two different needs, and we're not doing this tonight. I'm just saying this might be a next step, or I'm proposing for you all to think about if that's helpful in the future. Then whenever you reach consensus, capture it and then codify it in something like your good governance handbook. And we don't want to just pile things in here just every meeting. Well, let's add it to the good governance handbook, and then this is 150 pages long. Probably that's about as thick as you need to keep it if you want anybody to read it. I'm just being real. Like if it starts getting extra pages on it, it's just going to go somewhere and be parked and get dusty. So, but anyway, does that make sense? And yes, please. I was about to pause for questions. Yeah.
So my question is, I understand how does the board in their strategic role help to strengthen, and us in our tactical role help to strengthen. I get that. How do you come to that conclusion and talk about that mix without it looking like it's prescribed, or people think it's just manifested to achieve the end result?
Yeah, that's a really good question and framed really well as well. And then I have a question. So if at the end of that document is this self-assessment, and there's an answer coming.
Yes.
But if I know that you have 4 new trustees. So 3 new trustees, that's right, and a new officer structure. Okay. And I don't know, and this is just a real question. I'm not like a lawyer. I'm only going to ask a question that I know the answer to. Do the 3 new trustees did you observe enough of the board in the last year, like watching online or whatever, to be able to take this now? Or is this something that we agree to take, sometime in 6 months? There's two things that we're going to put that on the table in just a second. I'm putting on the table just the AAA, EE right now. But thank you, Ms. Stanford. We're going to move to that one next. So in other words, I guess new trustees, I'll just ask you, do you have enough perception to say I could give, or are you going to dump all your answers in 3, which is why 3 is there, and we're going to wind up, with this loaded up in 3, which that's why 3 is there, or part of the reason that 3 is there. Any thoughts, new trustees?
Well, I think I need more time to
More time to process?
Yes. Well, this is my first time having this.
Well, it's everybody in the room's first time. It doesn't even exist, actually. No one in the state, like I embargoed one out just for today.
I think just, like she said, we're too new to really give an accurate reading on this, because being behind the dais is way different than watching it online. Oh,
Yep, totally
is that what this is?
different.
Yep.
Okay,
Just keep it up.
there you go. Oh, wow, that is very loud. Yeah, like I was saying, I completely forgot what I was saying.
Need more time.
Yeah, it's completely different being behind the dais versus watching it online. There's just more to it than just being a viewer.
So that's 2 or 3, and I think I saw your nonverbal. You and I are going to share this now, so I don't have to keep holding it. So I'm coming to your answer.
Yes.
So at some point, you need to get a mean score and see, and in the one that's proposed here, if we were 5, if the mean was 5 between this team, then arguably you don't, need to work in that area. If it's 3 or 2, or, well, I'd say 1, 2, 3, or 4, there's room to move it to the right. And I guess, Dr. Fields, the answer to this is, if you try to work on all 6 of those at the same time simultaneously, you'll never get anything done.
Understood.
You have to take each one of them one by one by one, in my opinion. That's the reason we made the instrument, because we keep trying to solve team of 8 stuff just with this broad concept of, and I don't want to say this negatively, but it just kind of turns into kumbaya instead of, no, we're good with accuracy, we need to work on attitude, or we're good with attitude.
Functionality, right.
Yeah, right, we got to drill it into these components and work on them one by one by one.
Understood.
And so I think your answer, which was really good, was how does it feel authentic? I think we would hope that by breaking them into pieces, we're isolating that one thing to have a conversation about. So then it's authentic because we're only talking. The kumbaya thing is a lot of that's happening. And, we feel good at the end of the meeting, and it's 30 minutes later in the parking lot, the meeting after the meeting, all the kumbaya is
Right.
under the ditch, wrapped around that.
I'm actually not sure what you were looking for, Dr. Fields. I'm not sure I understood your question.
Well, in terms of each one of these individually, I get that. But let's say that we're working on a particular, I'll use the Vader as an example. We're talking about going forward with the Vader. We sit and discuss and we find out this is what's in the best interest of the district. So now how can the board in their strategic role assist in helping, and how can we in the tactical role assist in helping? And how do we come to that conclusion and that agreement in a way where it doesn't look prescribed, fake for everyone paying attention? Like it truly is something that we're trying to get done, even when it just comes to attitudes and stuff. If we say that we're working on attitudes, and then people see us changing our vocabulary or the way that we communicate or the way that we greet each other, does it look like it's fake or is it real?
Does that help, Ms. Stanford?
I'm just trying to think of where anything's look fake. Really.
I would try and probably think of when anything looks real. All too often in society, people walk up and, I don't know, maybe it's me, but I see people do the greetings and stuff like that, and then if there's talking behind backs or not giving that genuine communication in an open forum, then it looks like that was just all for the show.
I want to lean in on, and you all, I still read the Express News. I just can't figure out how to stop paying for it. So it just keeps coming. So as long as I'm paying for it, I'm going to read it. So it just comes every morning. As soon as I figure out how to stop paying for it, I'll stop reading it. But okay, that's what I thought. I tried. Now I'll get 2 copies. So I either got a good deal or they're hitting me twice. I don't know. I'll figure it out. But you're going to wait and do some analysis? Is that what I read on, or when is Vader? Like, when is some timing?
We're doing the efficiency audit,
Okay.
and then we come back in September and actually vote on it. But we're going to have someone come in, look at how we do things, let us know what we would need to do going forward. But at some point, there's been a lot of good things said amongst the board in terms of moving forward. Some saying, hey, put it in the hands of the voters. Some saying, hey,
Right.
this is what I petitioned on. Everybody's got their justified position. But at one point, if we say we're going to move forward with it, and then now we're all trying to say, how can the board help us in doing that? How can the tactical team help in doing that? How does everyone look genuine in our step forward.
So now I understand it better. And by the way, this is just an editorial. I'll be on a Zoom later this week on how to help the plethora of districts asking for vaders this fall because the ABC allotment for basic cost
Is not there.
is just
So
basically
you have
gone.
to ask for more, right?
Right,
And
so
we need everybody.
just know you're not alone. Everybody was kind of waiting to see if the basic allotment increased, and it basically did not. So-
Correct.
But anyway, that's that. So, but would you all agree with everyone here sitting right now? Let's say we're not talking about something that's happening right now and something that's happening a year from now.
Yes, sir.
If you are higher in accuracy, accessibility, now y'all may have high levels of accessibility, actually. That's just my opinion. Like y'all don't have any problem with talking to each other and getting in touch with each other. But let's just say that there is accuracy that's at a 2, attitude that's at a 2, efficiency that's at a 2, the mean score. So when the mean score is that low, and I'm making up numbers here, but if the decision-making gets better, the more these 6 traits are over to the right. Is that a fair? Sure. Okay, that's the point. Like, and y'all, the board is just nonstop. And it seems like in this day and time, it's just one big decision after another, and y'all aren't along with that. That's happening all over the state. We're trying to say, what skills can we build as a team of 15? What skills can we build together to make all these big decisions better and better and better? We think we've got it isolated to these 6 traits.
And these aren't personal traits, these are group traits.
That's right. When you take it, it's we, meaning this we, the majority of the time, what is our preponderance of the, the evidence. I'm gonna go to that, the preponderance of the evidence, and if we can accurately self-assess, then we can start having a genuine conversation about, okay, the cabinet thought that we were a 4 on accuracy, the board thinks we're a 2 on accuracy. So let's talk about this delta between those 2 perceptions. Okay, and we keep talking, and then it's what can the board do to help with this increase in accuracy, and then what can the administrative team do to help with that, just to use that as an.
Excellent.
This is gauging the 2 teams and how they interface. It's not within the board or within the cabinet.
We're trying to say team of 8 is an antiquated concept.
Right.
Team of 15, I'm making that up because I think there's 15 people here, but team of 15, that's where we move. That's where we move. Because if we have team of 8 meeting, then he has to go to a cabinet meeting and explain.
Translate.
Translate, and we're just saying, do it together. Like the world moves too fast for having to have translating meetings. Do it.
I'm real curious what their early training's gonna, it probably won't touch on, right?
It will not be.
I doubt their new training that they're about to start will reflect this concept yet, right? It's too new.
Well, it depends on which workshop they go, which session they go to. Oh, yeah, you're not gonna hear it. Yeah, you're not. No, I'm not disparaging. It's just time for a new model. Things have got to move faster, and we just cannot. I can tell you all over the state, boards are telling superintendent, fix the cabinet, cabinets are telling superintendents, fix the board. Like that, and then they call us. And that's when we finally just said, you know what? The 2 teams need to start functioning as a hand-in-glove one team. And that doesn't mean half of the team is elected and the other half is hired. It's not. When we leave the strategic roundtable format, Dr. Saunders doesn't go take a seat up here, right? Okay. But right now, we're down on the floor and we're saying we need to have dialogue, robust dialogue. All these opportunities we're going to talk about around the room, Ms. Ryan and Dr. Fields, those are structured to get the cabinet and the board working hand in glove with these things. Is that fair?
Yeah, and then I think the last 2 years, we've not taken advantage of the benefits that can come out of formative assessments. and formative as you go along, right? Like, we deliver you a report card once a year. Well, that's not helpful. The year's done, right? Like, that you and I have talked about that, and we talked about it really early on in this concept and didn't get there, which is, especially when you have a new team that's trying to build that relationship, it's not about just focusing on the star score and those things. You have to focus on the overarching relationships. And if you're not having constant feedback mechanisms, then people just store up 11 and a half months of frustration with one of these things, and then we just issue a summative and we're done with it, right? That's not helpful. That doesn't build as you grow, so that as you go through each one of those things, it's like, hey, I didn't feel like some of this information was accessible to us, or I don't feel like this is very effective, or the stuff we're getting isn't timely, or you're not asking for us for stuff in a timely manner, board. Like, you can't ask me 2 hours before a board meeting. That kind of feedback mechanism on a constant basis, if that's every 2 months on a board agenda where we're just talking about the formative portion of making these teams and providing that feedback real time, then once you get to the end of the year, everybody knows. We've been talking about it all the time.
At the same time, so I wrote down in my notes that are gone, so it doesn't matter, but I remember writing this down. If you wait for this to be perfect before you launch that, you'll never launch it. So there has to be a little bit of a comfort level with, we're going to launch, but we need to commit to some things as we build the airplane in the air. So does that make sense? And then I thank you, President Ryan, I was in Fort Worth area, and if y'all go out, I can't remember, the Motor Speedway, 199 or whatever highway you're on. So y'all, the big NASCAR, it's Northwest ISD. And I was doing in that area, and this was a really good metaphor that I asked the board, can you give me a metaphor for what we just talked about, which was really similar to what you just talked about. And he said, well, the board is kind of like we own the car. Like we're the owner of the car. So that means we get a seat way up there in the box where it's not hot, it's not cold, we don't have to smell all the fumes, and we get to watch, the race. But as owners of the car, before the race, we get to come down to pit row and we get access in there where no one else gets access, right? And we can get on a creeper and we can go under the car and they're gonna pop the engine, and then the exhaust guy, the pit crew boss is gonna tell the exhaust guy, show them what you did to the manifold. So here comes the exhaust person, and they're saying we changed this from aluminum to the, I've just used every word I can use on a car. But anyway, I can tell you what my mechanic's phone number is. I can get it to you right now.
That was a great analogy.
Well, and then I'm a board member and I'm under the hood and I'm looking at it, but that doesn't mean I grab a tool and I put the wrench on the thing, because and I turn to the board member and I say, that ain't right. Like, we're never going to get any speed. The hard part is you almost have to wait until the race is over to see if that was right or not. You see, to see if our hunch was right. The last thing you would ever do is grab a tool and start taking a bolt off. Now, doesn't mean you can't touch the tool, because you can say, is this the right tool? Where'd we get these tools? Are these low bid tools? Are these aluminum, or are they, right? Like, we can ask questions about the tool. I just can't get it in here and start turning. But you said Blue Bonnet coming in. You saw something on Blue Bonnet. See, you're looking at the tool though, right?
Yes, I might have gotten my hand on a workbook. Shh, don't tell anybody.
Well,
I
but
just
you
want to look at it. I just want to glance at it.
But you're
I'm not running
okay.
into a second grade classroom and teaching anything.
Okay, that's the difference. See, I can look at the tool. Pardon? Correct. And when we're talking about boardwalks here in just a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and go there, because the concept of boardwalks, and y'all can rename it to whatever you want to call it. Hutto ISD was the first one that named it boardwalks.
Hey, Dr. Gibson,
Yes, sir.
I'm going to stop you. I have a couple comments, but I can see you transitioning, and I want to make sure I come back to some of my remarks that I have.
Yes,
In terms of the comment that Dr. Fields mentioned about the unified approach, that team of 8 concept that's now the team of 15 potentially. I'm very excited about engaging our cabinet. One thing that I've given Dr. Fields criticism, but affirmation, is empowering his cabinet to be more engaged in the leadership of our district. I think it's important because we're all on the same team. My value, just for the record, is that I would eventually want all our staff to be in a position where their leadership from the classroom to the campus is incorporated in this collective decision-making. So I feel like we're headed in that direction. But I do want to say, in 2013, I did vote against the bond because it did not include the need for a new middle school. And back then, I said we needed a new middle school. So I voted against it on the board. Now, I voted for it in the ballot because I knew we needed to pass the bond. But I had a responsibility at the time to my community that Kitty Hawk was exploding. And we were hearing that we need a middle school, and the board decided not to add that to the bond. So I say that because we're not going to all agree. We have 8 different opinions. Then you add the cabinet, we have 15 or 16, 17 different opinions. There is nowhere that we're going to be like-minded. So I will implore that we always look to be transparent and real. And the reality is we're not going to all agree. There's going to be a spectrum of how we're going to approach something. Now, the respect is partly what I hear feedback. Be respectful, be courteous, don't criticize, don't bully, all those things. And don't do any of that, right? People are entitled to their opinion. So when we go forward with this dynamic, Dr. Fields, Dr. Gibson, we're going to have that spectrum. It's not going to be everything's the same. And we can't come across as aligned. And that does not equate that we're not unified in one goal and to making sure that Judson ISD is the best district that we have. So I would caution that is going to be the reality, and not to move forward with the idea that we all got to think alike. We all got to be together in that respect. And then also the one thing that's different in this dynamic is that the board ultimately has authority. Dr. Fields will say, look, this is my recommendation, but I'll do whatever the will of the board is, which, you know, when we look at his evaluation and we look at points within this score system, if the board overrode the administration's recommendation, then later on we have to be cognizant of the fact that we can't hold him accountable on certain things. And I'm going to use the budget as one of them. The budget is something that several of board members here voted 3 years ago to ensure that we paid our teachers. No regret again, but I want to ensure that people realize that. Part of our deficit challenge were those decisions. And so when you're paying 6%, 5%, it starts to add up, compounded. But now we're looking at evaluating the superintendent based on a deficit that was in large part the board's decision. It overrode that. So as we look at this plan of how we are doing that, we have to fit in something that identifies where there may have been an override of administration's decision and that the board and their leadership wanted to go in this direction. Do I make sense?
Yeah, that makes total sense to me, and I appreciate you sharing that as a good, concrete example. I mean, I would tell the cabinet in a room, not in a board meeting, you know, like, okay, at this point, everyone has a vote, but, you know, I have 8, you know, because I have 9 and the 7 board members, you know, so I have 8 votes and there's 8 of y'all. To your point, because we can't, now the concept of the strategic roundtable is to get the board off of the dais and get in what the military calls no rank meetings or something similar to that. And it won't be perfect, but to try to tease out every potential negative unintended outcome before decisions are made, right? And this environment here feels a lot more conducive to dialogue than standing at that podium talking to that diet, right? And so we're just trying to, the roundtable part of this is to set aside, Mr. Macias, what you're making me think of is that in the roundtable, a portion of that absolutely should be about the present matters at hand, but it also should always have a, are we not thinking of something? Like we've got 15 of the brightest people in this whole area right here around this table. Is there something we're not thinking of? Is there a negative unintended outcome? But the concept is that we have an environment where everybody can speak freely.
Is this going to be like a new type of training then that Mo Casey kind of offers to boards to help because again, there's down in the content, there's down in the balance scorecard, that's the stuff, right?
Right.
But is that something new
We're-
that you all are gonna
We're just
offer?
calling it performance management, and performance management means the strategic team and the tactical team working together.
Okay,
So we're just going to design here's what we'll train the board on, and then here's what we'll train the senior leaders on. As if they had never talked, and it's just like, okay, stop.
Train everybody.
Let's just
no, it just,
cut the
it would
step out.
seem, here's where I'm going with this, which is, if we're doing a 1.1 strategic roundtable in August, for example, right? And we're gonna be down deep in data and doing all that kind of stuff. Something in September, which would be about 90 to 120 days after the new people are on the board, pulling it, having nothing to do with 4 nothings, just us. How are we doing as a team? The ethereal, are we trusting each other? Are we efficient?
You're
How do
talking about
we-
a team of 15 coach, is what you're.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm talking about, especially after we go through one, because, we got foreman, storming, Norman, performing, right? We're very formed, we've stormed a little bit, right? At some point, we want to get headed into that Norman here
Correct.
real quick, but if we go through 90 days of trying to figure out what those norms are, being able to calibrate those norms with the team of 15 after we go through a few of these performance management things for everybody to say, how's it going? Like, how did the roundtable go? What's some things we could have done different in how we do it?
Right, it's
not
pro-
what we did.
It's both product and process.
Process, yeah, more process focused. How is the team of 15 doing? Where are we at on all of this stuff? And how can we improve our processes and these traits as we head to the next strategic
So
roundtable or
my
the,
answer is yes, and it launches this week. I mean, just so you know.
Okay,
And-
okay.
And we are launching it. I will be doing it.
okay.
So we're clearing.
But we don't dislike you, so that we're
Okay, well, I just
fine.
want to make sure you know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
So it
more
would
of
be,
you.
it would be, yeah, what you're getting into. And so here, we have 225 districts right now that are launching scorecards, and about 50 that are saying we need this next step.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're
You-
just trying
you
to get,
see what I'm
we're
saying?
trying to get
Like-
in the queue for that, I think is
Yes.
what we're
Well,
saying,
but
right?
I
We
love.
want to be the first
test
group.
subject?
Yeah,
Right,
test
and so
subject.
that's what we're trying to design.
Yeah.
We're trying to design for those 50 that are saying, we want the next step. And I'm not going to worry. I love it because you have this, you cannot do this stuff and not want to do this stuff. Like
Why not do it well, right?
if
Like,
you-
we can
it's almost like if you
force our
want
way
to do
through it, but that's
you're
not
going to
fun.
do it well, because if you're stepping up saying, we want to performance manage, then we're not going to, we're going to tease it like you probably should do this week and next week. But we're not going to do like I'm just going to say it this way, we're not going to do like hard sells, because if they don't get it, they don't get it.
Right.
So we can't force them into performance management. They either get it or they don't.
Okay.
How
The
often
other
should we have that
13 leave.
strategic meeting, roundtable?
Oh, that's
For-
next. We're going to do that.
No, she's saying,
Oh, that thing?
if we go into this particular portion, like if we work into this, how often do we come together?
Why, I think.
For a strategic roundtable? Because I think we need more of those.
Well, right now, the base version that's on the wall is
October,
3.
February.
Right, it's BOY October, there's one way to look at it, beginning of the year in October, MOY.
February.
February.
In
and then
June.
EOY, end of year in the summer, sometime in the summer. I mean, that's a good base version. You and the 49
Right,
others.
that's where I'm getting confused, because there's strategic roundtable that focuses on 1.1 to 4.3. I'm talking about the process.
I think she jumped back.
Are you
to-
talking about, like, when do we talk about star scores, how often we do that stuff? Or are you talking about how often we do the kumbaya, touchy-feely, are we communicating well?
Feedback, how are we doing?
How are we doing? Okay.
Yeah. I think off the top of my head, without giving a lot of reflective thought, every time that you meet on the process, the product part of it, 30 minutes should be on the process. Like, how do we do? Let's look at our rubric. How do we do with accessibility, getting ready for this meeting? How do we do with attitudes, getting ready? You see, like, there would be a piece of it that would be about how did we work? I mean, that's off the top of my head.
Okay.
Is it, everybody good for the, okay. This is actually picking up more. If you need a microphone, just let me know. Okay, it picks up a lot more. I'm going to just carry it over here. So real quickly, and new trustees, and I'm going to try to say this is the last time that I say new trustees, but some of this is repetitive, but we're going to use language we already started, and y'all are going, what does that mean? And so we're going to talk about some of it here. And we were actually just talking about this. Richard Elmore nailed this, that no amount of external accountability matters if you don't have internal accountability. So you guys are saying the external accountability is always going to be there. Let's lean into our internal accountability. And then we have defined collaborative leadership ecosystem as one where structured and intentional environment where leaders across different roles work interdependently, which we just had a long conversation about interdependence, to achieve shared goals, particularly those related to student success and district improvement. I'm not even going to go there because we just had a 30-minute conversation about that stuff, right? Like you have to design this to be interdependent. This is some of the, maybe the reminder things. So at your table, thank you, Ms. Cano. You have the Team Trust self-analysis hard copy, just so the new trustees, we believe strongly that there's 4, and President Ryan, like making sure we're not deviating from these 4 things while we're doing the process. And then we're going to add AAAEET to this. Does that make sense? Like you have to have these. And then now we've defined 6 components of high quality work. These are mindset. The AAA, EET, that's not mindset. That's we're in it. And how are we doing at the work? So the Team Trust self-analysis, new trustees, the board is committed to take this periodically. I don't remember.
Yeah, and I mean, everything's a reset, right? We're a new team. Our 7's new, we might as well call it all new. So,
Well, you know what's
knows
funny?
where we're at on this, and it kind of doesn't matter, right? Because we're starting over. We started over May 15th, and this is what we want to commit to doing, and then we'll see where we are 6 months from now, right? Are we sincere to each other? Are we solving problems? This is our kind of to-do list.
Yeah, and if you look at the 6 traits and then kind of cross-reference it with the Team Trust, see, the Team Trust may be helping with us quantifying the attitude piece of it. That one jumps out at me, maybe the effectiveness. There's lots of overlap there. And I appreciate, President Ryan, something you just said. If we lean into what we think are the universal rules of group dynamics, if one team member changes, the team goes to 0 on everything. Like that. That's just a fact. I mean, that you can Google group dynamics. And so I hear President Ryan saying 3 members changed of a 15-member team. So you could make a case that we've got to kind of think about a reset. Now, it doesn't mean this stops, right? Like this work's already been done. And so we're anchoring to this work that has been done. And if I might, Dr. Saunders, that work and this work, right, that we're going to glance at here, we're saying that, but we were trying to just raise awareness on these components. And here's the thing. You said, let's do a reset. I'm going to say, you're doing a reset, whether you officially say we're doing a reset or not, because you have 3 new, if group norms is correct, you're doing a reset. Okay, so let's go real quick. We just talked about.
Dr. Gibbs,
yes, sir.
Just so I'm clear, the thing that really allowed me to buy into this process was that regardless of who's at the superintendency, who's on the board, that we follow this plan. So I want to be clear on
Thank you.
What type of reset are we talking about? I mean, there's going to be reset with dynamics, personalities, but in terms of the goals and objectives, this is a living document. So are you saying that there's some base foundational stuff that I'm expecting will stay? And what is going to change? I'm trying to get a better sense.
Thank you for that clarification. So the mindset is the reset. So whatever Team Trust analysis we took before, I think, President Ryan, what you were saying, like, it doesn't matter.
Like in the past, if we C1 weren't listening to each other well, doesn't really matter we weren't listening well in the past. The point is today, we start listening well to each other.
Right.
We're all going to commit to listening better and striving to be a 5 on C1 listening well despite anything that has happened in the past. Today's a new chapter, and this is the way we want to move forward as a team.
Right.
Does that make sense in terms of when I say reset? It just means we don't need to carry all the baggage from the past. We get to start over and commit to
Well,
something.
Mr. Macias, thank you. I think we may only be talking about team trust because,
And that's.
right, I
that's good
saw.
for clarity.
Right. So thank you for asking because
No,
I
not
saw.
reset the balanced scorecard, no.
Well, and I looked at two new trustees and said, this stays the same and these stay the same. And I just happened to be looking over here and now I just saw your head nodding. And so their head was nodding like, yes, this does not change. Like this is the thing, like we've got to stay. So it's really, thank you for clarifying. It's really team trust. We're just saying a team trust assessment that was taken a year ago.
With 3 new members and a year later may be different.
Right,
And
so it's
trust is something that's really earned, not necessarily just given up front. So,
Yeah, I think in the past, there've been longer retreats to do that, and we still have really a month in working with folks, so we really haven't gelled quite yet. We're getting there, I suppose, but maybe there's still room for a more low-level type of retreat that might help also, in addition to just normal working together.
I, as much as I hated giving up Saturdays for 23 years, we did a lot of team building retreats. Because when you got a high performance system going and it's just go, 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 sometimes you got to just stop and eat a taco together and drink some coffee and say, how are we doing on connection? How are we doing on believability? So thank you for pointing that out, like, because this can get really robust and it can just, I'll show you 5 myths here in a little bit, and what you're talking about is one of those myths. I will show you. So then the 3 essential roles, y'all have heard us talking about strategic and tactical, and I would argue that the strategic role and the upper tactical team are sitting at the table right now. And I say upper because every tactical team member or administrator that's sitting here has direct reports. Is it safe to say that every employee in the organization through the org chart answers to you all eventually, right? Like, so the whole, I just want to make sure that's clear to everybody. Like the whole, you got curriculum coordinators, you got somebody, who does principals in here? Who does principal? Okay. All right. Okay. So that's so that you all are the upper tactical, and then you move it into the lower tactical to help get work done. And then the operational role is boots on the ground. And I'm not going to read all these to you, but I'm just going to, and I had a trustee the other day, last week, say 50,000 feet's pretty high. Can we get that to like 30 or 25? Like, wait, it's like, y'all going to put us in a satellite before long? But anyway, so maybe I'll move it to 30,000. The point is, we're going from really looking at the big picture, then the tactical. If you look at the last, that's not very bright. This on the system, in the system. See, right now, Dr. Saunders is sitting here working on the system with the board, and what's dinging on her 5 cell phones up here is in the system. Nobody is saying, please come by tomorrow and report on what the board did. Like, no one is, right? Like, they're just saying, can I do this and can I do that? And what? So they're going on and in. Now, one thing, Mr. President Ryan, about the strategic roundtable that I really like is it forces cabinet members, not yours, but just in general, to think in the big picture, right? Because we can get so lost in the work. There's so much of it so if we have this cadence of at least these 3, then we know sometime in between those 3, we have to have a couple of meetings with the cabinet on, okay, that's coming up in 2 months. Okay, that's coming up in 1 month. And see, I felt like we got the most out of the last 2 systems I was in, truthfully, in the meetings with the cabinet preparing for the strategic roundtables with the board. That's when some stuff happened. And it might have been me saying, we're going to show that number one more time to the board. That trend line is going the wrong way. But we're going to say we're going to double down on the things that we've been doing.
right.
That's the definition of insanity, right? Like we're going to, for the 4th time, we're going to say this is working while the trend line is Not gonna do it. We gotta come, anyway, I know this cabinet pretty well. I just don't think they're gonna go show a trend line going the wrong way and say, oh, but let's keep doing the same, the same thing. Okay. Then real quickly, I'm gonna click. I didn't put all these transitions in this. I don't know who did, but whatever. So, so these, just to think about this performance management system, so there's strategic roundtables. We've been talking about up there. I love that just in our pre-conversation here, we've been talking about norms. And then President Ryan, we started talking about, maybe we didn't say conflict resolution, but we said these tools on making sure that we're working on the process, right? Let's just say we had conflict. Well, we've got to work our way through conflict. If you do roundtables and you don't hit a point where you have a very serious, healthy debate, you're doing it wrong. It's just, can we do healthy debate? Can we disagree agreeably? Maybe that's what Mr. Macias was saying. Can we disagree agreeably? Does disagreement have to be disagreeable? Can we just disagree agreeably? And then we also need to make sure that we celebrate successes. And I know how Dr. Saunders is hardwired. Sometimes I, would have to tell her in her younger days, okay, would you stop trying to plan the next thing? Look at the win you just got. Like you just got a win. Quit focusing on the 10 things you want to do next time. But then deep down I was like, you go, girl. Like you just keep on keeping on. But sometimes we have to remind ourselves to celebrate the wins.
And Dr. Gibson, I think that's when everyone this was a discussion we had when we put the little draft of this together, which is looking at a life cycle, right?
Correct.
Where that strategic level is occurring as quickly as possible, as early in a cycle as possible, where there's guidance coming out, right? So that it gives the tactical team time to go refine the tactical actions associated with it, and then empowering the operational teams down our campuses to then take all of that and figure out their portion of that, right?
Correct.
So we could be 10-5-3, but that's great for us. But what tactical actions are associated with 10-5-3? And then what does that mean if I'm the principal of Olympia?
Correct.
What is my part of 10-5-3? So you'll see some sequencing later that gives them the maximum planning and execution time in a school year by us getting our stuff done, any guidance we have up front, and then go and move on out. That's very military, where higher
Right.
headquarters just sends that we hurry up and do our stuff at higher so that everybody else can go out and do their nested planning.
And I apologize, I was pointing at this because you're describing plan, do, check, act.
Yeah.
See, and that, because the board is involved in, look up there at the bullets on the plan part. See, tactical role gathers feedback from strategic and operational roles. So you come in preloaded, Dr. Saunders is probably never going to sit up here by me again, but you know staff feedback. Every cabinet member here knows, so they come with operational feedback top of mind. The roundtable is to balance what you know to be true from the front line, the operational role, with the strategic role. It's just this balance. So we're planning the work. Then I think, President Ryan, what you were saying, they need a cycle to go do the work and cascade any pivots.
We had talked, if you don't look at the academic star results till November or December, well, we're 5 months into the school year. We need to roundtable that in August, because y'all are about to head into a school year and go do 7-8 months of great stuff with kids at both the tactical and the operational
And they may
level.
say something like, trustees, you're going to hear this discomfort coming from this change in this,
Yeah.
I don't know, reading program, math program. See,
Scheduling.
scheduling, right? It's coming.
But if you change something in December and the STAR test is in April, us giving guidance on academic stuff in December is not helpful to the
Right.
people or operations
The
teams.
February, to me, let's talk for just a second while the plan, do, check, act is up there, because this is really important not that I hope the rest of the stuff is important, but this is like critical component. Yeah, this is a biggie. So Ms. Stanford, you might have been asking something similar to this a while ago. So we've got our objectives, we've got our key actions, we're ready to start getting to work on it. So if you do this October, February, July, BOY, MOY, EOY, arguably each of those segments is a cycle. I want us to think about that. That's a plan, do, check, act cycle. I'm looking at you like for the curriculum data, right? Like
Yes.
y'all can probably easily put a plan, do, check at 3, plan in that 3. Okay. I think everybody else can, but so you're setting forth on 3 plan, do, check, act cycles a year, basically, in performance management. Now, are there shorter cycles that happen inside that bigger cycle? Of course. There's week cycles, there's month cycles, there's 6-week cycles, there's 9-week cycles. But we're saying, basically, the check part of that, wherever we are on check in October, we're reporting it out. Wherever we are in February on check, we're reporting it out, like a master list. Wherever we are in July on EOY, that's check, but it's kind of summative check, right? October is formative check, February is formative check, July is summative check. Does that make sense? And then Ms. Stanford, you said, well, how long do you do this? Forevermore. I mean, three big cycles a year. We did 12 years of it
Well,
in my last district.
correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Fields. We kind of viewed this a little bit different. We had kind of broken the strategic objectives down. So finance has, let's say, 4.1, right? 4.1 has a cycle, right? There's a certain time where we are taking in a bunch of data, and then we're coming up with a plan, then we're doing the plan, and we're checking and acting. So finance is on one cycle, and it's tied to a budget cycle.
Well, and their timing is different.
Different than
because it's
everybody
not
else, right?
POI, MOI,
Different than
AOI.
in
It's-
the
We got to get the
academic.
budget
Okay,
in
thank you. I was
an academic
sharing the
cycle.
priority 1 cycle just now. I
Okay.
think, yeah, as an example, because
Because we had put some different timelines for the other cycles.
that's great.
Where, based
Thank
on
you.
when data's available, when they have to execute things,
Thank
when
you
we're
for
able to check
clarifying.
things. Okay. I
Well,
didn't-
and that being said, to the cabinet members in attendance and the other board members, if you see something on these as we go around later for the calendar that we missed, that's what we need you to write down. Hey, they totally forgot about whatever.
This was just a draft, so we had something to work with. We figured it was easier to move the sausage than make the sausage. So we'll draw arrows and move things around, but I figured at least if we had, because they were looking up like, oh my gosh, when do we get the CCMR prelim file, right? Like, those are things we didn't want to be looking up in the middle of this meeting type thing. So, but yeah, we had multiple cycles depending on the dates of each of those things. So,
As long-
okay, I think we're tracking.
Yeah, as long as you're, and thank you for clarifying that. The key is it's plan, do, check, act. Plan, do, check, act. And I would argue that act changes to strategic response. Plan, do, check, strategic response. Plan, do, check, strategic response. Something's working, you're getting leverage out of it, and we can point, then, let it sit. But if something's not working, why would we keep it's a strategic response. It just, PDCA, I think, was easier for Edward Deming to teach. Who am I to say that Edward Deming did not say every word exactly right? But I want to step back, and this is kind of the board can hold the tool under the engine, but doesn't touch the tool to the engine block. These, and I know current trustees, we've looked at these several times, but a big part of the way that we send the message at regular board meetings, but definitely at strategic roundtables, is the way we frame our questions, right? And I had to learn this. I know you all know I got on that the Teacher Retirement System board, and that's when I wrote these for me. I've told that to the other trustees because I'm rolling in there as a board member, not a superintendent, right? So I had to make a list of questions, and I had to pause when I could feel my blood pressure going up behind my ears, instead of saying it the way I wanted saying it or asking the question the way I wanted to ask the question. I had to think about this. Did we just set our measure too high? or it's just a little pause, stimulus response, a pause to think of the right question to ask. I think the best board members on earth are the ones that have mastered the art of asking good questions, right? And trustees, I think I said, don't ask, why is it painted red? Ask, what is your process for determining paint color? Like, we're going to get to the right thing, but it's the way you ask the question. Okay. Truthfully, I'm blanking on the end of this PowerPoint, and so I'm assuming there's some more slides. We are trying to move. Let me ask this, cabinet members, would you agree? I made this statement the other day. If you utilize a balanced scorecard approach, which you all have done some robust work, and we're going to hear some more about it here in just a minute, can you be in stage one and this be in place?
Yes.
You can be in 2.0000001.
Because that is an early systematic approach.
Do you see, how can you not have an early systematic approach?
We're all generally going the right direction, right?
Does that make sense?
I get what you're saying. Yeah, we're all going in the same direction in terms of what we've agreed on as but how we're getting there. For some, we're still debating on what's the best, even though it's on here of where we're supposed to be going, because this has helped tremendously.
You've got
We
the
just had
cabinet
our
arrows
curriculum and
aligned.
instruction team meet last week, and they came back and briefed me that, to her point, what We're the Mokes has to do to help us out with 1053 is going to be different from what
Right.
one of our other schools, I'm gonna
Correct.
quit yelling out names, one of our other schools would have to do to help us with 1053. But everybody understands 1053.
So the arrows may not all be completely turned, but at least they are starting to know where they need to turn.
We're not in formation, but we're definitely in the right direction.
Yeah, we have, so I love that he's saying we may not be completely out of one, but we're not in the low one now.
Right.
We're in the upper one, trying to get the message out to get out where the arrows can align. And then the performance management journey is the journey from 2 to 3 and 3 to 4. Does that make sense? Like that's what this stuff around the wall, like you're trying to move from 2 to 4. I actually can just go all day on that, but I'm not, that aligned arrows, I'm going to not go over it. Okay, this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to conclude with this. And then President Ryan and Dr. Fields, I think we wanted to talk about the scorecard for a little bit.
Yes, sir.
And then I'm going to put up a performance management calendar template that you guys have already designed for around the wall.
Yes, sir.
Because we talked last week, and then I'll let the two of y'all kind of explain what's around the wall.
Understood.
Okay, and we probably should move this slide up to the front. But it's really important, and at least 5 times in the last 20 years, Harvard Business School has identified, they've done these studies on, I think one of the articles was titled, "Any Idiot Can Make a Strategic Plan." Which, that'll catch your attention. And well, but what they're trying to say is anyone can create a strategic plan. The question is, can you performance manage? Like, that's the bigger question. So they, every year, or at least every 5 years, they do a big study on what keeps strategy from going from a strategic plan to execution. And these are the 5 myths, and this came out last year, but that execution equals alignment and alignment equals execution. So number one, you can make those. So, and Dr. Fields
That's what he was saying.
he just said this. It was perfect timing,
Yeah.
because he was saying just because it's created does not mean that we are ready. So I don't even have to explain number one. Thank you. Without even seeing this, he explained number one. There's some communication and some coaching and some things that need to occur. So I love that. So then one of the reasons that we separate the objectives, what's on the board, and the actions is that the objectives we're trying to hold steady, the actions can be ever changing as long as they line up to the objectives and to the outcome measure. So that, see, some people think you build this robust scorecard and then you never change it, like the actions, like you never tweak it, and then the world changes too fast now. So that, do you see, you get too rigid. So it's a framework.
Correct.
You can't say, just do it. No, it's a framework. Just keep all work aligned to the objectives and towards the outcomes, and we'll be fine. Okay, that's what number 2 is saying. And then, and Dr. Fields was touching on this a while ago, that communication, the myth is that communication equals understanding. You were saying just because we said it doesn't mean it's landed. We have to make sure. I heard this the other day and I really like it. Some organizations, especially big schools, like they think communication is a flare gun, boom. And it really should be a walkie-talkie, meaning there should be back and forth.
Check for
And then and you know what, if Dr. Fields and I are on walkie-talkie and all he's hearing is okay, then it's not even going one way, right? Much less, two-way. So we've got to have a clear connection, and it's got to be two-way. Dr. Fields, please confirm that you are bearing, whatever, northeast, not northwest. Northwest
clear.
is not where you want to go, right? Okay. And then on the fourth one, Dr. Fields kind of touched on a while ago, but if you're not careful and we don't have, I'm going to go back to trust, then some in an organization that's using performance management can start using shortcuts and start modifying data. And and trust is real paramount to that. Like if you're a 40, say you're a 40, don't try to convince us that your 40 is actually an 80. Does that make sense to everybody? Like, we can't fix it. We can't work on it, not fix it. We can't work on it if we don't even agree that a 40 is a 40. We can't. I've heard this, the put lipstick on a pig concept. That's what we're really talking about here. But does it make sense?
Or like penny wise, pound foolish.
That's
the
right.
one I use all the time. It's like, there's no use looking good today and having a pretty number if that's not true, and strategically thinking 3 to 5 years down the road, what's the impact of not addressing what that was at this time, and that thing's just going to continue to grow exponentially, not necessarily in a good way.
I'm working with the board next week, and I was talking to the board president of your parking lot, and there's one board member that's just dead set on if the outcome measure doesn't have 100 in it, he's not voting for it. So we're probably going to adopt a scorecard on a 6-1 vote. We're working towards 100. We had that conversation in this room about a year ago, is my recollection. We're working towards 100, but this 4 years, it might be from 54 to 64, right? Like, that's the bite that we think is realistic for this next. Okay, is that fair enough for everybody? And then we've talked about this numerous times, so I'm not going to belabor it, but this team in this room can be crystal clear about all of this if it's not cascading to the front line. It's just top down. And 20 years ago, you could get away with top-down leadership. Not anymore.
Nope.
Go do it and watch how fast you're on Instagram. That's all I'm saying. Like, you will be the story on Instagram. The boss came by and told his heads are going to roll. You will be, right? Like, that used to work. We used to, yes, sir. I mean, we used to just do it, but it doesn't work anymore. Okay, President Ryan, that was a bridge too far, that last slide. So this, Dr. Fields and President Ryan, Dr. Fields, did you want to talk about the status of the scorecard?
I
see
did.
Copies, yep.
I did briefly. Did you want to add anything to this before we start?
No, go ahead.
Okay. So,
Pardon me? Hold on, Dr. Fields.
yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Is this when I would ask about?
I think it's probably the right time. Before we go to the scorecard, she had asked me a question and I asked her to wait. So I think that, Ms. Stanford, I think this would be a good time.
Okay.
I'm going to swing back around to a change I'd like to see to the scorecard that I mentioned last board meeting, and that's to add to 1.1 another goal. So we have the goal set by the administration, and I'd like to add a stretch goal to that the administration is not, or superintendent is not assessed on, but it's higher than the goal that the superintendent is assessed on. Because I've gotten feedback from people that aren't really happy with our goals. And to me, this is a way of satisfying a need for maybe a little more robust goal, a little more of a stretch to the goals that the superintendent isn't being held accountable for.
So is this then, and this is exactly the right time, because that's what I was just talking about. So this would potentially be, and you pulled this out to put in front of me, so these baseline targets?
So these right here,
So these are baseline targets?
it's outlined to 2028.
So what Ms. Stanford is saying is, maybe there's an asterisk down here, these are the baseline targets, and then there would be an aspirational or a.
Aspirational,
Whatever the right terminology is.
inspirational, right, something higher. That is what we put forth to the school district, the schools, the principals. This is what we're going to aim for. The goal that's set, that we judge and evaluate the superintendent on is not the one we're publicly pushing for. We're pushing for something more aspirational.
Yeah,
That's what I'm asking if the board, I'd like their input on that.
I'm going to give two sides of a coin, trustees. So one is, I think I shared with you all that we had a strategic target comparison group that we had set some of our targets off of, and then we built this big Uber, target off of. So that's good. We did not do that until we were a year or two into the system. Because until we could get clarity on what the base thing was, we didn't want to introduce a secondary set of numbers. Like, we were worried that might, that's the flip side of that coin.
Well, we're going into a new school year, so it seems like a good time to introduce that. At least I'm thinking so.
My concern with timing is we don't have this year's final STAR data yet. That's coming out by the end of this month. So what we have drafted tentatively on here is an August strategic roundtable on 1.1 and 1.3, I think, I can't see how far away, where we will actually have the 24-25 data. This is it, here's the data set. They've got an entire, it's like 60 days to break that down by sub-pop and everything with it, so that we can then, if we feel the need to reset targets, whether that's, or add stretch goals or any of that, that we do that in August with all the final data, and that gives everybody their kind of marching orders for the 25-26 school year then, with those new goals.
To me, the data is independent of having the addition of an aspirational goal place marker. We don't have to decide what they're going to be, but we're just going to decide whether we're going to have that place marker inserted.
Just have a goal with
into
no number yet
With no
on it.
numbers assigned yet, until we move forward and get more data, et cetera, but just agree to go ahead and insert that as something we're working toward, and we will flesh out as we go.
The concept of holding a placeholder, I can feel better about. I know that Jim Collins called it the flywheel. So you're trying to get a big flywheel moving. Like, it's huge, it's heavy, and it's huge. And we just need everybody to get their hands on it at the same time to get it going.
That comes with clarity.
That's right, and we're pushing it this way, not that way, right? And then once that thing, when it gets moving, then you can take your hands off and have conversations, right? Because it's got some perpetual motion going, and these targets are meant to get the flywheel going. Is that fair to say, Dr. Fields, Dr. Saunders? Like that, they're meant to let's get the flywheel going. I don't think y'all would ever say, if we hit one of those ahead of time, we're not going to move the number up.
Two different things, because one thing is going to be used to evaluate our superintendent.
Nobody except, this is my opinion, nobody except the people in this room will understand what you're saying. No one outside of this will understand that.
And that's what I was getting ready to ask, Ms. Stanford. First, we're talking around. I need you to be specific on what you think that aspirational goal could look like. And two, if we don't put it on here and we don't publicize it, then how do we get people motivated and energized behind getting behind it?
We have to publicize.
I know, so I just need an example. Give me an example.
Okay, 10-5-3 in a year.
That's just changing our current plan, not
Again,
aspiration.
you said give you an example.
Right.
So I just picked some numbers out of the air, because I don't have the goals in mind yet. That would be something we'd need to collaborate on. But I want to have that place where we have that different level of goal setting, that the superintendent is not, his evaluation is not tied to it. Because right now, the current goal is going to affect your evaluation. Whether you make it or don't, we're going to grade you on that. And I have felt for quite some time that creates a conflict of interest. And y'all can disagree, but Ms. Ryan, I think you've had some issues with the goals too, yes?
No, I do. There's a campus that pretty much almost hit 10-5-3 this year already. In the first year, right? So it's like, what do we tell that campus? What's next? I want to be able to look that academic dean in the eye when I see him in the hallways and be like, great job, you hit hurdle 1, you better start heading toward hurdle 2, right? And we don't want them to be proud that they accomplished the goal and cool, now we're on, not that they would ever do that. Say, oh, I'm on cruise control for 3 years, right? Because I already met my goal. But giving them another hurdle to jump after, is important too.
But I think that should come from the campus themselves and not from us. So here's my question. We set this goal. How is that going to change what happens at the operational level at the campus? How is that going to make a difference for our kids, that we've set some arbitrary aspirational thing? How does that make a difference at the campus level?
This is arbitrary too.
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am, this is based on actual
This is
data.
tactical, and we've got line by line actions on how we plan to get there. In addition, they've met with the campus curriculum departments to say, hey, this is what we need from your campus, and all of those are different. Because to her point, some campuses are getting out there quicker than others. But I would, to your question though, these goals that we've set, these strategic objectives that we put out there are not for the campus. It's for the district. So my immediate retort for someone who jumped out there and did 10-5-3 in a year, how'd you do that? And did you talk to so-and-so about it? Because the goal is for all of us as a district to get to 10-5-3, not just your campus.
Right, but in answer to your question, Ms. Knoyer, to me, how would it help? I believe completely that having a higher goal creates more of a challenge to the human nature, and that it will respond. It will respond to something higher and more aspirational. It's just something I think that's built into human nature, and there's too many people that have written about it. Dennis Waitley, Napoleon Hill, there's too many people that have addressed the human nature and how the spirit in the human mind, how they respond to a higher stretch.
And I see it in sports all the time. If I tell my 16-year-old, hey, what are you going to run this 5K in, right? She'll be like, oh, I'm going to hit 25. Like, how would you do 24-20, right? I'm never going to set her a goal that is easy, right? And, well, what can you achieve? Well, everyone can achieve more than what they think they can achieve. And I agree with you that I don't want goals that are like, all right, what's kind of the bare minimum reasonable, we kind of can't fail at it, right? Like, we can get here. We know we can get here. To me, that's not a goal. That's just you're trying to predict where you're going to end up and then say that's your goal, right? Versus setting an actual goal that you are going to apply resources, time, energy, and everything in order to get there. Like, this is your all-in core mission, and everyone is just all in to get there. And I also don't think not reaching a goal is not a terrible thing. It's why didn't we reach the goal? There's so much to be benefited from why didn't we reach the goal? Certain sub-pop, we didn't put enough resources toward a certain sub-pop. Oh, man, if we had thrown more stuff over here, let's go throw some more stuff over here, and let's go get that one up, and then we readjust things. And so I think people think not reaching a goal equals failure, but that's not, that's a mindset. Well, if you have that mindset, but if everybody doesn't have that mindset.
It is for the superintendent if they're being assessed on it.
That's if you choose to use an assessment tool for your superintendent that is numerical only and leaves no room for understanding the operational
I
environment.
meant to ask that earlier, that, it's not set up that way. The number is just informative, but there still is the board decision on how to
No.
rate you, is that right?
Our-
The way we have it spelled out.
No.
Well, I think okay, let's just say, for sake of clarity, that, you know, you missed something by 1%, I'm just making stuff up, but everybody here, because we've been through roundtables, know that that's gonna be fixed in the next cycle. Are you still, you're not gonna give benefit
No,
of
the
doubt?
evaluation tool, literally, it defaults on the Microsoft Excel to not met and dings him points.
I think the board deserves the right to have an override to tell, now this is gonna sound like one superintendent trying to protect another superintendent. Sometimes there are stories in there that the board knows,
Yeah.
you know, that there's something that's in place that's gonna close that gap. So we just need to override that and move it to the next, it doesn't have to go high in
Or
the next one.
decisions that may work in contrary to being able to get there, so.
Right.
To their point on the explanation earlier, so.
Yeah, a number is a starting point.
Dr. Saunders, and I know Dr. Saunders is gonna probably talk about it.
Well, I'm going to time out. A lot of great discussion. I don't have a mic next to me, so I have to kind of keep taking it, so I'm not able to talk as promptly, as quickly as these two have. But I have a point I'm going to make, so I'm going to stop it again. The idea is obviously the conversation that we're having. We're right back to the idea that board decisions impact administration. And so the caveat that we wouldn't hold the superintendent accountable for something like a budget item should be there, because budget's on there too, for criteria that we evaluate him. I'm certainly not going to grade him heavier, because I know that board action was responsible in part for some of this deficit. So in terms of academics, I do agree and have always wanted aspirational goals, but I've also learned too, it's inappropriate to make aspirational goals if you've not set the mechanisms to achieve those goals. So as Ms. Ryan has stated, it should help the conversation. Where were we deficient? How were we deficient? And unfortunately, in this day and age, we're talking more about what we're going to cut rather than what we're going to put on something to help address the need. So it's a frustrating time, but it still shouldn't impact Dr. Fields, because naturally we don't have the unlimited resources to focus. But the conversation should not be adversarial. We have a campus that's not performing well. What can we do strategically to ensure we're helping? But I can see that the way the things are set up, the soup's going to say, crap, I have so many campuses that aren't performing well, they're going to come after me, because that's how it's structured in the rating system. So we have to be stronger and wiser in our assessment, and I don't know if that's something that we tweak with the performance management part of it, but certainly that can't be lost in all of our objectives.
Yeah, Dr. Fields and cabinet members, if one of these is achieved earlier than the 4-year window, are you leaving it there?
No, sir.
Okay, so
The plan is.
you have a
yes.
mechanism to,
We've already
Okay, I
talked
just
about
wanted to
bringing
see
back
how
to the
y'all
board
answer.
saying, hey, we achieved this, so to move forward,
What-
by 2028, we think that we need to try and get here.
but the perception on the front end is that we've got to make sure that it feels attainable. So we
That's,
can
and
get-
that's
so we
what
get-
I know Dr. Saunders and Dr. Toppin want to talk about. Here's an example, and there's a picture of a young man getting ready to climb a ladder. And the rungs on the ladder are 10 feet apart, and he's standing on the first rung. Now, you can set an aspirational goal, but I can't jump up that high right now. But if I put it to where it's the length of his body, then I can get to the first one. And then once I get the hang of it, then maybe I can start jumping up, crawling up the side, or whatever I got to do to get up this ladder. But a lot of the business that we're in terms of education of public school students, is the belief that they can get there. And if you jump up with this, all of us are going to be at 100%, then they're going to be like, yeah, well, not me, because I can't read. So I hope I didn't. I know they wanted to say something.
I just wanted to, I think we're probably saying the exact same thing. So last week, we met with all the campus principals, and each principal developed their own balanced scorecard. So based on their data. So, for example, the scorecard or the goals for Campus A could look very different from Campus B because their starting points are at a different place. So when you talk about, because I think you and I have had this conversation as well, that you're fearful of, we're going to be stagnant in some areas because maybe it feels like the goal is not high enough. But if every campus is basing their 10-5-3 on where they are right now, we did this just with the preliminary data, there are some campuses whose next year goal is already higher at where we're anticipating for 2028 for the entire district. So there's a differentiated goal set out there for campuses right now based on where they are. So everyone across the district is growing kids 10-5-3 from where those kids started. We just can't expect everyone to reach, I'm just going to make up a number, 85% when some of these kids are starting at 19. So for these kids down here that are at 19, they have to have a teacher who believes in that 10-5-3 for them. But if we say it's 85 for everyone, this is the goal, then to Dr. Field's point, this one is going to feel like I'm never going to reach that. And so then stretch that out a little bit. There's some campuses that feel that way. There's some campuses that are below our 2025 goal right now. And they have to develop their 10-5-3 based on where they're starting. And then we do have other campuses whose preliminary data right now is already higher than the district. So we'd be remiss if we said, okay, great, way to go, keep plowing away. No, no, no. They're setting their goal at like 91% now. And DT and I meet with those principals, and that's part of their evaluation.
And one of the
I hope
things
that
we
makes
have to
sense.
remember when we do SMART goals, part of SMART goals is it realistic and is it attainable? When you set a goal so high, you already defeat the purpose in what you're trying to do. It's just like me walking around here saying I want to be in a size 8 again. That's an aspirational goal. I'm just going to put it out there. That's an aspirational goal. Pilates. But if you want to get there, there's some things you're going to have to change. And what we have to realize is that we're dealing with children. And we're dealing with children coming from different walks of life. And so the challenges at one campus may not be the challenges at another campus. So we teach our principals to look at our demographics, look at what you're working with, look at your staff, look at everything, and then put down strategic goals in every area to ensure that you're going to reach the 10-5-3 in a timely manner. We are not satisfied with where we're going to be 5 years from now. Kristen and I both have been at campuses where the work has been very hard to push to where we want to be, but we both have seen success in setting realistic and attainable goals every year and working towards that and building the systems in place to monitor those goals and to ensure that they remain at the forefront of everything that we do on that campus. My goal may be reached if I can increase my parental engagement more. Whereas you have a lot of parental engagement and your battle is somewhere else. But you always have got to go back to looking at your systems and making sure the systems that you have in place is going to push the campus in the direction that it needs to go. And then make sure that everyone is aware of what that system is and that we're working that system daily, monthly, weekly, and checking our checkpoints, our milestones, and making sure that we're targeting where we want to be at the end of this year. And like she said, we have campuses that are already there. Then the conversation changes to where are you at your meets and masters? Because you're already blowing it out the water for approaches, but now we need to look at where you are at your meets and masters because we're not where we need to be right now. And so always moving and improving, but making sure that it remains attainable and realistic.
What I would like to say is, I think this is something for you. This makes you feel better, but I'm not sure it's something for campuses to make them feel better.
Not just me, not just me.
As a teacher, but people who truly understand what happens at campus levels get it. As a teacher, my goal was always 100% of my kids are going to be successful. I never met that goal.
But I bet you got higher by having it.
But I didn't spread that to everybody else. That was me, personally. I didn't tell the kids that. Do your best. Have you done your very best? That's all I can ask from you. They would set personal goals for how many books they were going to read or what they were going to do in their math, facts, or, that kind of thing. But I'm not putting my expectation on them to cause that pressure. Teachers are already going through a lot of stress. So if you're saying, okay, here's this goal here, but what we really want you to do is this, we're sending a very mixed message that teachers aren't going to know how to take.
What I heard, that there already is a mechanism built in that if they're at approaches, y'all are saying, okay, guess what? Now we're looking at meets and masters, and they probably saw that coming
Yes.
also,
Yes.
right?
They were not surprised.
They were not surprised that there was a kind of a built-in ratchet system, like here's the district-wide goal, when you're hitting it, then now we're looking at. I remember when y'all remember in a district nearby when one of the high schools was doing really well and one of them wasn't. So I was walking behind the two coaches. I could hear them talking, and like I was trying to act like I was listening to the conversation behind me, but I was really listening to them. And one of them, they were talking about the next year being challenging, and the old wise coach that was at the rebuild campus, he said, well, I only have to win 5 games next year. You got to win 15. And I'll never forget that. And I just thought, you know what, he's right. Like 5 games is going to be a win, to my point. Now, once they won 5, was 5 good enough? Nope. I got 7 the next year. Y'all remember? Okay. Yeah, and then 7 wasn't enough, right? And then it was 10, and then now we have them playing head-to-head, kind of closer to, to one another. That's the thought. There's built-in mechanisms. And then I want to, Ms. Stanford, one of the questions on those good questions was, have we set this target too high? Have we set this target too low? So to her question, she's asking the right, like that is a strategic question. I'm hearing, well, what I'm validating is that you're not asking a question that's not a strategic question. I'm giving you kudos. Like that was on that list. Have we set our target too high? Have we set our target too low? And then I'm just hearing consensus from the team that let's leave it where it is for now, knowing that we're going to point out where we're ratcheting it up. Let's see how much energy we can get from the full system.
So the board is happy.
That's
That's what I wanted to find out, is if the board is satisfied. Because it's truly not for me, Ms. Knoyer, it is not to make me feel better. I just believe that if you, and it's also how you tell a child too, it's like, hey, you're at a 50, you know what, if you could get to a 60, I don't know if it's possible, it's really kind of hard, but you want to try it? How you communicate it, I think, makes a difference too. But if the board is content with where we are, that's what I was trying to find out. If we wanted to try to add something, another layer that we stretched for, or if that's too complicated, it's truly, what I was looking for is a way that our district could stretch higher, because I believe we can, but the board has to feel that way too. You wanted to?
Dr. Gibson actually gave me his thank you so much, so that you can keep it over there. One other thing that came out of the conversation, Ms. Knoyer and I have had healthy debates about this for some years now, and I can respect where she's coming from. I know she knows where I'm coming from, Ms. Stanford, and so forth. But the idea is for us really to take down the strategy part of it. And one thing that Ms. Knoyer and I both can agree to, we've seen a lot more through the years. So there are places geographically who have been in similar buckets, regardless of who's at the leadership. It's because of the demographic of students, the mobility, and all of those things. So certainly that should enable this board to think strategically what needs to happen here. And I think that's where these conversations is all designed to do, because Ms. Stanford's point is one I agree with. We need a higher goal. But like I said, we're not in a position to do that, as Ms. Kenora said. It bombards the teacher. It gives the teacher this perception. There's no way. We can't set that up. So we have to do it in a mindful manner. My question, just for rhetorically, you don't have to answer the question, but giving our principals professional development and feedback that's consistent with where we have good campuses performing, I'd like to know right out of the gate that we are giving that guidance and that evaluation, because that's something teachers tell me all the time. They're critical of their leadership team, right? And so, which means leadership teams do not uniformly act the same or implement things the same. So that could be a strategic discussion that we're talking through. Are we all doing best practices and have that checklist of how we're doing it? Something as simple as that is a strategy.
First step towards that end is clarity on the objective and the outcome, right? And so many organizations miss that, and you all have trusted this process. Because if we're saying X to Y by Z, and we're at X, and we're trying to get to Y, then the training thing just, like if you have that clear, because the question from a principal is, okay, if I got to get to Y, how do I get to Y? Okay, here's some curriculum options. So I thank you, Mr. Macias. I think that's hardwired into this.
The only other,
I was gonna say, I had something to add, sorry, I was waiting for it to go all the way around. I've always been more in line with Ms. Stanford, we're not voting yes unless it says 100%. No, I don't think we've ever been in line with that, right? We're not that guy type thing, but, partially in clarity. If the goal is 71, that doesn't mean every campus's goal is 71, right? That might be 91 at Wortham, and it might be 51 somewhere else, right? Somehow get to mathematically to 71 in the middle. But if the tactical and operational teams have sat down and said, we can safely get to 71, feel good, feel like we can get to 71 type thing, I guess, especially in military terms, the 71 would never be the goal then. It would be 73. Right? It would always be 73, and with the question of what do you need to get to 73? If you can get to 71 with everything you have right now, what's it going to take to get to 73? And we're going to find a way to get you what you need as much as we can to get to 73. That's one extra FTE or some tutoring time or something. It's always a little bit better than what the people who are actually executing it think they can get to.
So one thing, President Ryan, that I think and I would understand, but I want to clarify something. So it's a 4-year plan that we're launching. This is, if we do 3 strategic roundtables a year for 4 years, this is not even the first. October will be the first of 12 conversations in the next 48 months where this is going to be talked about again. Right? Because we're going to see where we are, and then it's fair to ask, did we set it too high? Did we set it too low? And trustees, that helps me, I think, describe why I think performance management, too often in organizations, you adopt this, and then you don't hear about it again until 4 years from now. Do you see what I'm, like, this is not that system. And so I can, like, you get nervous, like, this is my last chance to say something. Nope, you're going to have, every 3 months, you're going to have an opportunity to talk about, let's look at and see where we are. Maybe we do bump that up just a little bit, or maybe we set that one too high. That one needs to come down. You have a lot of opportunity in the next 40 months to have conversations about it. Dr. Fields, with that.
yes, sir, I'm ready. The only thing I'd say is this, Ms. Stanford. The whole trust thing, trust. If we see that it's too low, we're going to come back. In addition, when you make the statement, are we content? We're not content. We're not saying that the numbers that we've set are what we feel are adequate. We're just saying the numbers we set is what they brought back in talking to the administrative and curriculum specialists on the campus was something that they were going to strive to get to. And that's how we came up with that. But it's not something that anybody's content with that we feel comfortable with. So I want to go straight to the scorecard. Here, just mostly for the new board members, because I'm sure that the older ones are more understanding of it. In the first column where you see the 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, those are what we refer to as the strategic objectives. I'm sorry. Oh, I apologize. I got closer to Miss, there you go. Gotcha. All right, right here, these are the strategic objectives. On top of this, what you're going to find is the priority, which is student academic achievement and success. So under that, we have strategic objective 1.1, 1.2, and 1.3. How we're going to go about getting to 1.1, you see in the overall tactical actions. And how we get to 1.2 and 1.3, those are the tactical actions that you see next to it. And then some of the things that we're going to use for progress measures and stuff like that. To the point, when you walk around this evening, what you're going to see on these poster boards is it's going to say January, February, March, April, all the way through. And what you should see when you see progress measures is somewhere to find what's in that progress measure on the first sheet. So you're going to see January, a list of all the stuff that we plan on covering with the board and when. And then on the next one, you're going to see January in a blank sheet, because we need, if we miss something, we need you to write in there what you feel like we missed the boat on. And then we can add that to our performance management calendar as we go through, and then we'll bring that back to the board at a later date. But basically what we're doing this evening is just doing a cursory gallery walk through all of the months to see if you see what we should be measuring and reporting back to the board somewhere on the scorecards as we go through. So
These going to stay up here?
they're not going to stay after today.
Oh.
So today, we're just going to walk around and write the information on them. And then what we're going to do is go back and update. And then we're going to give it back to the board to say, okay, how does this look based on you guys' feedback? But what we did do is we sat down with Dr. Gibson and Ms. Ryan and a few people from the cabinet to say, hey, this is kind of the stuff that we do, and these are the months that we reported out in. So we kind of jumped ahead and put some of that stuff on there so you guys aren't starting from scratch, if that makes sense. Now, as you go through, you're going to see the next priority, which is faculty and staff, the next priority, which is stakeholder engagement, and the next priority, which is finance and operations. And those are going to be 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, and then 4.1, 4.2, 4.3. We tried to leave 3 strategic objectives with each priority, and then again, under progress measures, this is when we should be reporting out or talking about some of those things. So as you go through, we'd ask that we do a gallery walk at this point, walk around and look at all of the poster boards and anything that you don't see captured here in some way. And if you're unsure of, like you'll see here in progress measures, it'll say BOY Panorama Survey. So if you don't see the beginning of the year Panorama Survey up here, you can say, hey, when is this? And then most of the cabinet members should be able to help you out. On that one specifically, I know that Top and Davis can help you out on, right? Because that's, I think it's the fall. And then we do the end of the year Panorama Survey, and the survey results usually come back in June, July.
So you should be able to see for all 12, you'll see either a strategic roundtable or a, there's a few program reviews, because like the HR program review attacking 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, and any strategies we're going to use for HR going into the budget cycle, right? So you'll see an intensive 2 hour probably program review in HR that will go after 2.1, 2.2, 2.3.
That earlier when we were having that conversation, I didn't realize you guys had already mapped all this out, and I think that's wonderful.
Yeah.
So I was in the priority 1 thing, so y'all have already mapped out 2, 3, 4 is what you're
Yes,
saying,
they're
right?
already
Yes.
up.
At a logical time of the year when data is, and then the other, Dr. Fields and President Ryan, the things that are at the top of this template that we put out statewide, which one of those are already built out on the wall? The round tables?
Oh,
Yes, in addition.
A lot of them.
We tell them about the board meetings.
Well, that's
and
what I want. See, this is a
the district
statewide
meetings.
best practice on the slide behind me.
So we tried to add the district committees, our board advisory committees, some things we put on there to just come out in the Friday notes, because if there's no action on it, there's certain data we want, but there's no like action or guidance that's going to come out of it. That's fine for our Friday notes, because we're not going to talk for the sake of talking, we're going to talk for the sake of action. But other things then will be in the monthly superintendent report, because it doesn't necessarily need a deep dive, but it's that quick check, right, in the plan, do, check, whatever it was, the cycle. And then other things are, this is when we need to take action. So there's a number of things in terms of how we operate certain programs, right, like CCMR and STEM. That stuff is up in like the February, because if we're going to make changes for next fall and we're going to budget for things, then we need to deep dive any program changes in February in order to be able to plan it out and execute it in fall is how you will, but there are also boardwalks, or rounding, whatever we're calling it, is on there, so that we give a chance to go out and see Blue Bonnet and how that impacts
I
1.1.
want to pause on that one.
It's all on there.
Yeah, and I love, I don't think the new trustees, to an earlier point, are going to hear anything about boardwalks in their training. They're going to be told, stay in your lane. Okay, I'm just telling you, you're going to hear it described 50 ways, but it's stay in your lane. Okay, what we're saying is that if we structure it right, it's okay for a board member. Not okay, it's great. Like, I'm up here at this dais and I'm voting on Blue Bonnet. I don't know what that even means. Then give me a opportunity to go see what that looks like. That's all we're saying. You are now have your head under the hood.
But we're not touching.
Okay, and you can even hold a wrench in your hand, but just make sense, right? Like that.
We even picked the time when you can go down on the track and lift the hood up, meaning that you don't want to go look in a classroom first week school comes back, because that's not when you're going to see, stellar
Or in March,
teaching.
2 weeks before the start test.
Or March
Don't
2
go
weeks,
bother.
yeah, because
Don't.
it's drilling, so we tried to make it realistic, so you can pick the time that you go in. Well, we pick the time that you can go in, and then we'll just get back with the board.
And then that's beautiful. The last thing to remember, and it's just a really big focus, is the overarching construct here is this is where the strategic role and the tactical role work in harmony, right? It's not, see, sometimes tactical team members get gotcha happens, but it's because there's not a structure for this to be in harmony. This is trying to build a harmonious relationship, so we don't have to feel like we have to play gotcha. Like you're going to get more than enough information if you just lean into the structure that's here, right? That's what we're saying.
And
we're gonna end
strategic
up
use of committees too, right? We've had a lot of committees, but having those committees tied to an objective with a deliverable that's coming to the board at the appropriate time for some sort of action, whether that's a finance committee, an academic programs committee. So as our committee chairs are walking this too, knowing how you fit into each of these things, that you are producing things in that cycle that are going to come to the bigger board, because there's a lot of work to do, right? Like there's nug work like this that doesn't all happen in just these meetings with 15. Can't happen up there with 7, 8, or 15 either, that using whether it's a district committee or a board advisory committee to get some actual work done in order to bring that back as a deliverable, integrating that into the performance management also.
So are we going to end up with like a strategic calendar, a performance management calendar?
We'll have a full
that
calendar.
It's not going to be this big necessarily, but something we have with us all the time? We have it in our, we have it
It
in.
would have to be on this size of paper, because we put all of it on one sheet. And for you to be able to read it, it's going to have to be on a bigger sheet, but it'll only be on one sheet. I can make it front to back, but basically, the calendar's already been put together based on what you see up there now. We're just giving you guys the opportunity to go back and help us out in some areas that we may have dropped the ball. And I think the best way to do it would be each board member team up with a cabinet person. And then hopefully they'll be able to coach you up on the areas that you may have a question on. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it because I don't want you guys here all night. I'm thinking 30 minutes ought to be good. But there's one other thing that I want to make sure that we get on there, to Mr. Macias's point. I'm really serious about that retreat deal. We're going to put that together, and Mr. Brooks will look into making sure that that gets done. And I don't know where we're going to go do it, but we're going to find, well, we're not going to go to Hawaii, and we're not going to be on the news, but we are going to go check in somewhere, spend the night, have a conference, and do some real team building.
And
So we
that
can get to
lines
that
up
trust
with
level.
this last column, right? Team trust, good governance check-ins. That's-
Yes, sir.
You're designing around,
I'm sorry, was that recorded?
No, we're not going to do board work. A retreat can't do board work. It's just team building. We'll work
I
it
hope
out.
not, because we're not going to be able to have the conversations we need to have if there's another.
I think the other thing to think about here, which was something,
But,
I've lost all control.
hold on. I will say, obviously, look into the fact that we need to have that open to the public. I believe all our meetings are public. And I remember way 100 years ago, Marilyn McKinney and other people would go to wherever they held the retreat because they had to be open to the public. So just keep that in mind as you're reviewing it.
We will research the details of
just
that.
one little detail on that. One of the things that I like about the team trust self-analysis, and I think I've told you all this before, that the debrief of that is eligible for executive session, 100% lock, stop. We've asked 100 attorneys, because if you start debriefing those questions, then if you're doing it right, then Greg is talking directly to Monica, like, this is why I picked one. And so that is, I just wanted you to know that.
I think the other thing, when you're looking up here, I know there's been some conversations about meeting management in the district, right? Because 8-hour and 16-minute regular meetings is not going to work for many of us, not the best decision-making on it. So there was a discussion of maybe going to 2 regular meetings a month. And I think when we looked at this stuff, we're not sure if putting 2 actual, like, first and third, that may not be the way to attack that problem. You'll see almost every month, there's a big thing on there already, right? There's already a program review, a budget workshop, a strategic roundtable. So I think we're likely to get to the 2 meetings a month, but it's not going to look like 2 regular board meetings. We're just going to do some strategic agenda management so that the 2 meetings we do meet at a month, or however many meetings we need, have a reasonable agenda so that we are not going over a 3 to 4 hour mark ever and continuously shortening as we go through the process. And then the other thing we discussed that we can solidify with Jameson was having our closed session before the regular meeting.
5
I say before, but you still have to open the regular meeting, which is moving that closed session to 5 o'clock when we're already supposed to be sitting around eating dinner anyway. So we're going to sit around and eat dinner. We might as well eat dinner and talk business, with the team of 8 plus, whoever you or that we need for that closed session type thing. Is everybody amenable to that change, to starting it earlier at 5? While we're eating, we'll open the meeting real quick in here, and then we adjourn immediately to the closed session, and then we get done what we can get done in 50 minutes and a bathroom break, and then we're back out here at 6 o'clock.
So we open the meeting officially at 5.
5, yes. The
And what
public
about-
comment does not have to happen until after the closed session.
And what about signing up for public comments? Do they have to sign up by 5:15 or?
They need to sign up before well,
Not
I
by
get what
5.
you're saying. The good governance handbook states that,
And I believe the way Jameson
The good-
explained it was, we could have 2 different meetings. There could be a closed session only meeting,
okay.
and then it reopens with another meeting at 6. I can't remember exactly how, the lawyers will help us
But
figure
to
it
your
out.
point, right now, Ms. Stanford, whenever the meeting starts, you have to sign up before the meeting starts.
So it
if
wouldn't
we
be
were-
before the 5, it'd be
It
before the
would be
6.
before the 5.
Should be before
The
the
way
12.
that it's currently written, it would have to be before the 5.
That's
Now,
gonna
we
be
could
a
go back
change
and
to the
change
public.
that. We can go back and change that. It needs to be by a certain time, though, preferably by the 6 o'clock. And maybe we could just get with the legal team and see how we write that up, because we know we're going to go straight into closed session. So before we start the open session proceedings, you have to have turned in your
Something, yeah, we don't want to change it a whole hour earlier.
No, correct.
For the
That
public.
I don't think would be anybody's intent, right? We still want them to
We're
be
not
able to
doing
sign up
stop
by
people from
6.
talking.
Yeah.
Because especially on weeknights and school days, the high school teachers don't get off till 4, whatever.
Can't get
something,
there.
And can't even get here
Right.
either. So, all right, is everybody okay with us working out the details of that with Jameson and starting that in July?
I think we should wait.
Or wait till
until,
August?
September. Let's give us time to get through the summer, really, because, I mean, unless you guys disagree, I think July is going to be hitting the ground running, trying to get people hired. So there's not a lot of structure that's going to go into that. And then August is going to be starting school up, getting the kids in the class. And then in September, we can start doing it the way that we're going to do it. But all the meetings that we're going to have, at least for the rest of June, are going to be about budget. And we're just trying to get it done. In July, it's really about, I mean, most of us are going to be on vacation.
Is this a policy change that we have to do, vote up a new board policy?
If we were going to
Or is it our good governance handbook only? Because if it's policy, then we're going to need 2 meetings to change the policy.
Correct. Jameson is, him and Betty were working on, if we were going to change it to regular meetings a month, it was going to be a change to BED or BE, whatever, one of the policy letters type thing. But if we're not changing to that, then I don't think there is, just moving it up to 5, I don't believe is a change, but we'll double check that
I meant for
with
public
Jameson.
comment.
Oh, for public comment, I think it's just a good governance.
Is
deal.
it,
It might, you're right, we'll check.
I need to, because
We'll
that will delay us starting it until we can get the policy changed.
Correct. And they were standing by, Betty was standing by to work with TASB Policy Services for whatever we decided here to be able to have, if there were any changes, to bring them to June meeting so that we could approve it there. So,
All that conversation was really good, and all that notwithstanding, I think another good reason to wait until September is to get it right.
Yeah.
Like everybody's in agreement. Here's what we're doing in September, here's what we're doing in October, and I appreciate the spirit of let's go.
oh no, I just meant the closed session part because we don't like
Right.
going after 10 o'clock at night.
Right, I'm just saying, I think I think it's reasonable sitting right here in June to say we will have the master schedule for the entire next year ready by September. I mean, if I was a trustee, I would rather get it right, measure twice, cut once, like, let's get it.
Although we got an August roundtable, so we got to do
Well, we know that's
a
coming.
1.1 and,
Right, we know
yeah,
that's
so-
coming, so we know
okay,
that's coming.
okay.
So like, we're designing the rest of the year, basically.
There's a couple of things to still consider with that. One that comes to my mind is, will we be permitted to submit 2 agenda items on both agenda? There's 2 meetings now, so are we going to just have one that's more discussion-based only, like they do in other boards, and then one that's action, which would then alleviate the need to have 2 different agenda items? Because every board, including you, everyone, just 2 items per agenda. So we got to work through those logistics to see how we would handle that. And there was one other point, but I can't think of it.
Do you guys put agenda items on special meetings?
we are allowed to.
We can, but that's not
I
something
don't
that's
think
not,
anybody ever has.
we've not communicated it. It's generally been the regular meeting that we submit, because we have a timeline that even Betty Holmes will tell us, this is the day that you need to submit your
I
item.
noticed that.
So we don't typically do it on special, but we could, in theory, do that, but that's where I'm sensitive, because
Yeah,
we
it's
should.
already in good governance that we can do it to a special board meeting. I've just never, I don't think I've ever seen anybody specifically like put an agenda, and we could though. And I think if it's relevant to the topic of the thing, so if we're having a special board meeting that's the finance budget workshop, whatever, then if there is a topic you want to talk about that is related to that thing, and that's the most appropriate place for it to be versus at a regular board meeting, I think we're going to be strategic about placing our agenda items as much as we can if there is something of similar topic to talk about.
And the reason, and I thought of my second thought, the reason why we have to decide if we're going to make one just strategic and discussion, no action, our limited action, in case administration has something that they need to get through, we don't have to do all the ceremonial stuff. Can you see us doing it twice where we have recognitions, twice where we're having the students come and do the pledge? It shouldn't be that. It should be one
No, one will just be
working
a special
session.
Like
board
a
meeting,
special.
just like we do here. We just roll right into whatever it is that we are working on.
Obviously, I think it's necessary. Part of the critique in the past, just for my new colleagues, is that we, and I'm talking about me, talk a lot. And we don't want a platform for
We
us
are
to
proud of
just
that.
talk
It is.
a great deal. So certainly the timeliness and following our good governance and how much time we have on the floor is good. And I think we've done better the last couple of meetings with that. But, yeah, we don't want to be here till all night.
No, I'm not. 4 hours we've determined is my time limit.
Might be structured like this, and then one of them is structured
I do. I
like
think
that.
it's gonna feel like,
It
You
would
like
be
this
nice.
nicer?
I think I like this better so that like it gives, like brainstorming and stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
Before to like decide over there, because it's really hard over there,
And
to be
I,
honest.
I like
know
It's
how you
true.
feel.
It's
But
just that,
Mr.
because me,
Macias-
I'm more like, because I'm learning, so I wanted to like, whatever's on the agenda, I come across like research and everything, but I don't have all the answers, so I go outside and have some inputs who really knows best, like principals, teachers, or whoever, before I go there and represent, for me, because that's just me personally.
Right.
I don't talk, you like,
So
throughout
is
the
that-
board, but this is just
the
me.
one of
so
them
I think
might
there's
be
a
set up
special
like
board
this.
meeting almost most months that is either a program review, a budget workshop, a
But
strategic
like
roundtable,
this.
something like this is about once a month.
And then there's a regular meeting where this
Yeah.
is not out here.
Correct. And there may be some months like
think that's
December
good.
where there isn't one because there's not enough time to have a second one of these in the month of December. That's not happening. In November with Thanksgiving, depending on when that lands, there's not time to do that. So that's why I think many of us thought, we're like, oh my gosh, we need 2 meetings. Let's put it on there, first and third, right? But I don't think that
Right.
we need the flexibility to call it when it is appropriate and for the purpose. And that might be on the Saturday in jeans, right? Doing a program review, with breakfast tacos type thing. So, all right, so am I hearing a 30-minute recess to?
One
Go
thing,
ahead.
Alamo colleges have a meeting that's only discussion on every agenda item. They don't vote on it. That way, to Ms. Lee's point, they can go talk to people, get information, and then a week or 2 weeks later, they have the regular meeting, same items, and they vote on all of them, and it goes quicker. Discussion is less, and you speed through it. It gives us, we're not there yet, because obviously we're still trying to figure out what we want to do, but eventually, that's where I think we could end up, where we're really talking about the items that will be in a future agenda and get the thorough explanation that we're seeking.
Yeah, continuous improvement. Let's evaluate everything we do. Let's try it. It doesn't work, we're going to change it, right? And just continuously do things different until we find what battle rhythm works for this
Right,
group.
and I'm just going to add one thing right here, and if we do performance management the best that we can do, trustees will get ahead in their mind enough that they can ask the tactical team members what they want to have occur at these workshop meetings, and you won't feel like you need to go out and talk directly to the operational role.
Yeah, when
just-
trust,
I'm
yeah.
just gonna put that
When we get
out
to that
there.
point of great trust.
Right, when right, hey, can we have a couple of principals come to the one in February and share? Do you see, instead of feeling like I've got it, because I'm just going to tell you from the operational. That's, yes, like it's the agreed upon, we're heading to the pit garage together, not you're just popping in there while they're and doing all that, saying, hey, can you stop for a minute so I can ask you, do you see, like, we want to get it where we collectively have a rhythm. I just want to throw that out there.
So I'm hearing that we're going to recess till 6:45 and everybody's going to walk with.
6:45 exactly, yes.
Yes, and walk with a cabinet member, board member with cabinet member, go walk, draw what you need to draw on there, and then we'll come back and we'll take about 15 minutes then to wrap up and summarize what y'all have written down.
I think we should
And
just,
then-
we'll just take what's been written down and then put it together. If anyone wants to clarify a point, to your point, we should take time for that. But I think it's going to be bringing it all back together again. That'll make it easier to understand
see.
than to try and, you know what I'm saying, figure it
Okay.
out from the add-on, so. You just.
Anybody.
Anybody.
Gallery walk, anybody? Oh, you'll be with a cabinet member, you'll be
Take-
fine. We're giving you an elbow, buddy. You'll be okay. Okay. All right, so we are in recess at 6:18 and come back at 6:45. Okay, the time is now 6:42, and we are back from our recess gallery walk. Any feedback from, the team of 15 on this? Anything burning or pressing you wanted to talk about? If not, Dr. Fields and his team will go take all of the notes and things we have written down and consolidate this into something. But I did want to open it up if anybody had any sort of feedback or questions or discussion of it. Go ahead.
I'd just like to say how thorough I thought all of it was. There were only some very small tweaks that I saw, so you guys really got the big picture and put it down, and I commend you for that. Thank you.
And I want to thank y'all for putting out something that has such a nice flow to it, that you can see the year at a glance, basically. And I love the idea of having this consolidated on something that we have with us all the time, that we can be following and we know where we are in the year, what's needed, what we need to be thinking about, asking for. Really like that.
Thank you, guys.
Dr. Gibson, anything kumbaya you want to close us out with and make us feel good?
I got it on the wall
Oh, is it?
behind me. So Peter Singhi, the systems guru, he wrote the 5th discipline. It's this thick on systems. But time and time again, you would think this guy would be hardwired to like data and timing and calendars, and he was the guru on it. But he would regularly say a team is like a family. Like, would you really walk away from a family member? Would you really talk? And that this team of 15 is like a family. And then the 5th discipline, it was like you were reading, it's like you've read 300 pages, so I'm going to have a whole chapter on this only works if we talk to each other. This only works if we, maybe it's like every 100 pages he would have. So I found in there this quote, system is only as effective as the communication and collaboration within it. I saw a good start to that. This is communication and collaboration. You can't get more transparent than sticking it on big chart paper and sticking it all the way around the wall and let everybody go ride on it before we type it up. So anyway, I think y'all are off to a great start, and I'd be honored to be a part of the continuation of the journey.
Yes, thank you.
Anything else, Dr. Fields?
No, ma'am. Thank you guys so much for your input.
Okay, thanks to everybody for all their hard work, and the new reset chapter is looking good, and let's just keep working hard and keep communicating, and this is going to be a whole new chapter for us, which is exciting. So, all right, this meeting is adjourned at 6:45 p.m.